got Tim here today, so thanks Tim for coming down. He's got a big slide where he's going to talk about home energy efficiency and all the things you can do to make your house better. So I think Tim's got a lot to get through, so I might pass the mic over to you and let you get into it.
All right, now thanks for organizing this, Luke. And look, it's just so impressive. I've been banging on about this for more than 9 years, 10 or more. And so I'll go back through that story a bit, which has ended up in me writing a book. This is about event number 32 that I've had since the book published in June. I've been up as far as, through Sydney to Lake Macquarie presenting and out to Warrnambool, and this week coming up I'll be off to Wodonga and Wangaratta and Beechworth and Albury, and then later on I'll be heading over to South Australia again. Oh, and then I might have to go back up to Lithgow and Wagga Wagga. So, community groups, libraries, councils, businesses, others are getting hold of me afterwards and saying, yeah, come on and do a bit of a presentation about this transition that we do need to do. And there's a lot of people in homes that aren't that comfortable, and so there can be some easier ways to retrofit things, improve them, and that's what it's all about, and that's what you find in the book. So I'll crack through this presentation a bit. Luke, how long do I have to talk before you want to go over to question and answer and that sort of thing? And we're all in 2-hour parking, I think.
Yeah, an hour, as long as people are interested, it can keep going all day if you want. When people start leaving, maybe we'll wrap it up.
Except for 2-hour parking. Well, there's just a title slide. Save $3,000 a year. I'll come back to that. Okay, so there's the book. And what's the story of the book? Well, I've always done a fair bit of public speaking like this, and the story will go through how I started a business myself. I'll go into people's homes, spend 3 hours with them, and we'll look at things like insulation and how to electrify, and I'll come up with independent advices to things that can be done. But I've always done a fair bit of speaking, and I did a podcast at one point on the design files, and then the woman who would become my publisher heard me, talking on the design files, and it was just the usual stuff that I'll say when I'm in people's homes for 3 hours, quite conversational. And they said, write all that down and we'll make a book out of it. And so I got that call, September a year ago. So then in less than a year, we put the book together and published it in June. This gives you an idea of all the various chapters, but it's just the topics that you'd have in your home. It's the heating, the cooling, the hot water, and the cooking, and the solar panels, and should you get a battery, and what about the electric car, and the insulation, and the draft proofing, and the windows, and the window treatments, and who should you get your electricity from, and how do you monitor your electricity use, how do you actually disconnect from gas, all those things. So it's all in the book there. But where this story starts at one point is 9 years ago. I had a casual research gig at the University of Melbourne, and so we had the opportunity then. We looked at a bunch of stuff at Melbourne Uni. We looked at pumped hydro energy storage and the methane emissions from fracking and coal seam gas extraction, and we looked at the electricity system, but we also looked at home economics. And so we looked at heating with a reverse cycle air conditioner versus using gas. And what we found 9 years ago is that you could heat your home with a reverse cycle air conditioner for a third the cost of gas. So that was a big cost savings, even before we had a cost of living crisis. And so since then, for 9 years, I've been banging on about this, that people can use their reverse cycle air conditioner for heating at a third the cost of gas. So it's great news, but you'd be surprised how many people haven't heard that yet. And so it's been something that's kept me busy for 9 years. And it's also interesting to just think, back 9 years, I was talking to Luke before, and at that time Luke was an electrician, and then after that he started doing solar panels, and now he's doing the whole home electrification thing, and maybe even getting into insulation. So it's amazing to see these businesses that have sprung up since that time, realizing that there is a real opportunity here for us to electrify our homes, degasify our homes, make our homes more comfortable and cheaper to operate. So this is the report we did then, that you could heat your home for a third the cost with a reverse cycle. Maybe in your average Melbourne home, you could save $658 a year instead of using gas. And that was pretty amazing. We published a report, but we made a mistake. We published the report like at the end of August. And so here's a tip. If you're doing a report on home heating economics, don't publish it at the end of winter. So that was a bit of a mistake. We got a bit of media at the time, but I was still keen to spread the word further. And my kids said, well, Dad, there's this thing called social media if you want to try to get out to people. And I was like, 9 years ago, I'm like, what's that? And they said, well, that's, like Facebook. And I'm like, oh my God, you mean I got to join Facebook? So I joined Facebook, and I started a Facebook group called My Efficient Electric Home, with one main message being heat with your air conditioner. But then people wanted to talk about everything else. They wanted to talk about hot water and induction cooking and insulation and draft proofing and all that stuff, the windows, etc. So this group has grown since. I can't even update this slide fast enough. It's not 126,000 members, it's 132,000 members. So we still have like 500 people a week joining the group. And it's we get 40, 50 posts a day, people asking questions. I'm in Malvern, where can I get some solar panels? That's one of the easier questions. The more fun ones are where, someone's asking a question that pushes the envelope a bit about my knowledge or about the knowledge of the group as to, some particular thing they'd like to do with their home. But that's all that information in there. It's been running for 9 years. It's a searchable database. So you can go up here on the search function, you can type in Lightning Energy, or you can type in Malvern or whatever, and you'll see all these previous posts come up that may be of use to you. Or you can type in, retrofit wall insulation or whatever, and see what people are saying. So I started this group to spread the word, how people could save money, get off fossil fuels, all that. But another reason I did it was to confirm, those economics that we'd done at Melbourne Uni. You can do numbers on paper, but is that what you really find in real life? And so eventually we had lots of case studies of people confirming, pretty much exactly the stuff that we'd mentioned at Melbourne Uni, like this one on the bottom. We used our reverse cycle air conditioner this winter in Canberra, worked great, on track to save $1,100 by Jackie. And that was pretty much exactly what we calculated for Canberra, that people could save $1,100 a year by heating with an air conditioner. So all of a sudden now we've started to get all these case studies where people were actually doing it in their homes, which was fantastic. These days a journalist might ring me up and say, oh, I want to do a story, I need a case study. And I'm like, well, I got 20,000 case studies, so you're the journalist, you go find one. But if you went back 9 years, we didn't have so many stories, and it was easy to say, talk to so-and-so or talk to so-and-so. Now, you talk to 30,000 people. I don't know. There's a lot of people that have done it by now. So that was another reason to start the group. But what I found was, initially I was able to help people with things that I knew 9 years ago, but I also learned a lot about the whole home. And then eventually, I'd help people across more subjects until finally my wife said, people would pay you for this. So I started a business 5 years ago where I go into people's homes and offer advice. And a lot of it's based on what I've learned at the group. But I've been in over 1,000 homes. And so again, these are the stories and the things that I've learned that have ended up in the book. So what we're doing these days, of course, I've been in so many homes where we're just, shutting off the gas heating and heating with the air conditioners. So many of these obsolete equipment out there still. And, but we're making some progress. I mean, the whole Victorian government is behind this now. They understand the situation. They're offering big rebates for reverse cycle air conditioners or for hot water heat pumps. So they know this is a good deal. And we are starting to see the authorities said for the quarter ended 30th of June, the amount of gas that was burned in Victoria was less than the amount of gas that was burned for that quarter the year before. And it wasn't because it was a warmer winter, it was actually a bit colder through 30th of June than the year before. So we are making progress reducing the amount of gas that's being burned in Victoria, and people are saving some money. So, and then once you're off the gas heating, you might get off the gas hot water, get off the gas cooking, and then you can abolish the gas meter, and we can talk through that if you haven't done it already. It's a really good thing to do because, look, you can put a nice pot plant here once the gas meter is gone. Now, 9 years ago, the gas industry didn't understand what was happening. In the old days, people would only want the gas meter taken away if they were doing a renovation or something. And then they'd get the gas meter back maybe in a different place. So when the gas industry started to see gas meters request to have the gas meter go away, but then they figured out, hang on, these things aren't going back. What's going on? And they were a bit confused, but now they understand what's happening. This abolishment of gas meters, the decommissioning of the gas grid is a thing. We'll see more and more of this happening as time goes by. You'll see more and more trucks driving back to the depot full of gas meters in the back of the ute. Rightio. So this is one of the few graphs that I'll show you, and it's the only graph in the book, and it's our house. And it starts in 2008 and ends up in 2022. So we're in an old weatherboard down in Sandringham, 1903, that was renovated a number of times, starting in 1994 when we bought it. But this story starts in 2008. The red stuff is the gas we used to buy in energy units, kilowatt hours. And the blue stuff is the electricity we used to buy. So here's where we were in 2008. To start with, you can see in 2009 our electricity purchases went down a little bit. What was that? Well, that's the days when we were buying those 1 kilowatt solar PV systems back in the John Howard, Kevin Rudd days. 1 kilowatt, that was just the 6 panels. So it wasn't very big. These days an average size system is like 10 kilowatts. But back then they were quite expensive, but subsidized by the government, so you grabbed it. 1 kilowatt wasn't big, but it did reduce our electricity purchases, so that was nice. Through here, I was doing a bit more draft proofing, a bit more insulating, some better windows when we did some renovations. And so you can see we had reduced our gas purchases somewhat. But here's a big change. So big change in 2017, and this is when I took my own advice from the work we did at the University of Melbourne. And we started heating with 2 reverse cycle air conditioners and shut off the ducted gas heating. So when you shut off the ducted gas heating, obviously your gas usage falls quite a bit. Now back then the gas industry would say, oh, you can't do that because your electricity bill will go through the roof. So here's our electricity bill going through the roof. You can almost see an increase in electricity use. And this is because the reverse cycle air conditioners are just so efficient. They're heat pumps, they get free heat out of the air. And I'll talk more about that later. But no, our electricity use didn't go up that much while we saw our gas use collapse. Then we got off the gas hot water onto a hot water heat pump, and you can see some examples here. So again, heating water for 1/3 the cost of using the gas, so that was a good move. That reduced our gas usage some more. Here, then we put up 22 more solar panels. So we've got 7.5 kilowatts, not a huge system, but at that point, you can see it has a big impact on our electricity purchases throughout the year, net throughout the year. And finally, we got off the gas cooking. So we got off, we got rid of the gas cooktop and onto an induction cooktop, and finally the home was off gas. So we went from having to buy this much gas and this much electricity off of the system, net through the course of a year, to where the home is actually a net energy provider into the system. Now we still have an electricity bill. If anybody says get solar, you'll eliminate your electricity bill, that's probably not true anymore. But so we still get an electricity bill. It's about $600 a year. We operate an electrically heated spa, so we have a luxury item, and otherwise our numbers would even be better. I don't have a battery yet. I don't have an electric car. But just the spa. And so $600 a year electricity bill. But if we'd never made the changes, and if we were still buying this much stuff off the system, this would be $3,600 a year. So we're basically saving $3,000 a year from getting some air conditioners in, replacing a hot water system, replacing a cooktop, and doing some of that insulation, draft proofing, and window improvements. So there you go, that's our house. I can answer more questions about it later. Oh yeah, but don't forget, it's actually about the climate emergency. So I'm not here just to help Luke sell stuff. I'm not here just to help you save money. Actually, why I'm doing this is because of the climate emergency. We need to be getting off the fossil fuels. We need to be getting off the fossil gas and onto the renewables. Just a couple more charts. This shows the planet's or Earth's temperatures. This is over 20,000 years. This is over since 1940, and you see these charts where, the temperature of the world is just going crazy. Now, I didn't mention before that I'm a chemical engineer, and I migrated to Australia to work in the gas industry. And of course, now I tell you don't use this stuff. But when I was working in chemical plants, such as out in Altona and oil refineries and on offshore oil platforms down in the Bass Strait. You know, we would keep track of a lot of things in those facilities. We'd keep track of temperature and pressure. And if you ever see a chart going like this in a chemical plant or something, you know you got a huge problem. And so you better do something about it. So when I started to see these charts that the climate scientists were putting out, it woke me up and I said, right, this is a planet out of control and we should do something about it. So look, you know, me writing a book is not going to change the world dramatically. You getting off gas heating is not going to change the world dramatically, but it may be one small thing that we can all do to improve the situation. So that's what it's really about. But let's talk about home heating. So we've got an expression at my Efficient Electric Home. We say this is where we don't have to burn stuff. So don't burn stuff at home anymore. It's unhealthy if you do so and can be costly. So no burning of gas, no burning of wood, no burning of LPG. So how do you heat your house? You heat it with an air conditioner. Here's an air conditioner, split system. But actually what it is, it's a heat pump. What it does is it gets free heat from the air outside. Pretty amazing things. You have your inside unit, your outside unit. You put 1 unit of electricity into this, you can get 5 units of heat coming out of the thing. 4 of those units of heat are free. Where did they come from? They came from the thin air outside. This has a refrigerant system in it, and in the winter, I don't care if it's 3 degrees outside, the refrigerant in here might be minus 25, and when it's functioning properly, that cold refrigerant goes outside, absorbs heat from the air outside, which warms the refrigerant. The refrigerant then goes through a compressor, which makes the refrigerant very hot, so it can come into the inside unit. There's a fan inside here, which blows the heat off of the refrigerant into your home, so you're nice and warm. And that cools the refrigerant, and then the refrigerant goes through an expansion valve, and it goes back down to minus 25 degrees, and it goes outside and gets more free heat out of the air. So that's how heat pumps work. But my wife said that's too confusing. And so what she said, just tell them this. She says, this is like if you go to the shoe store and you want to buy 1 pair of shoes and they give you 5. So she says, tell them that. So that's the deal. With an air conditioner, go to the shoe store, go to buy 1 pair of shoes, you actually get 5 pairs of shoes with the air conditioner. So cheaper to use than electric heaters. These electric heaters, these are 1 for 1. You could say they're 100% efficient, which sounds good. You put 1 unit of electricity in, you get 1 unit of heat coming out. But that's just like going to the shoe store, paying for 1 pair of shoes, you only get 1 pair of shoes. With this, you get 5 pairs of shoes, so because these things can be 500% efficient. So that's the deal. They're heat pumps, they get free heat out of the air. These aren't heat pumps, they don't get free heat out of the air. So if you have the option, and I've been in homes where they've got one of these, and they got one of these, and guess which one they're using for heating? They're using this one. And the reason is because we have so thoroughly demonized the use of air conditioners. We're like, oh my God, don't turn on the air conditioner, it'll crash the electricity grid, you'll have a huge energy bill. And look, that may be true in summer. So in summer, I don't care, don't use your air conditioner, but do use it all winter long for heating instead of one of these. You'll save a lot of money and use a lot less electricity. And then of course there's gas. Now gas is even worse because when you buy gas, what's the first thing you do with gas when you buy it? You don't sit around and look at it, you set it on fire, and quite a lot of the heat goes up the chimney, so that's a waste. So this is if you went to buy a pair of shoes and you bought a pair of shoes, but you had to burn the right shoe and you're only left with the left shoe. So that's gas. Again, you can heat with an air conditioner for 1/3 the cost of the gas. Now the price of gas, look, the gas used to be cheap in Victoria. I used to work in the industry. I put ducted gas heating into our house in 1994, and we had all that gas in the Bass Strait. So it was cheap. So we piped into it, and we were going to use it. But in 2015, what happened was they started exporting gas from Queensland overseas. And since the whole gas system from Victoria, even Tasmania, South Australia, it's all connected up to Queensland, that completely changed the market. So in 2014, you had a gas market that was a buyer's market. You could get a cheap deal, but it quickly switched to becoming a seller's market, and basically we started paying international prices for gas back then. Meanwhile, the air conditioners just get better and better every year. So the equation was good 9 years ago. It's still very good that you can save a lot of money by not having gas in the house. Keep going. With the gas equipment, of course, if you do have a gas heater still, you need to have it checked every couple of years to make sure it doesn't put out poisonous carbon monoxide, and it might kill you. If you're a landlord, you should be checking your tenant's gas heater not less than every couple of years to make sure it's safe. But better idea is just replace this with a reverse cycle air conditioner, which will not kill you. And then an even better deal, if you're lucky enough to have a reverse cycle air conditioner for heating, and if you have solar panels, and if the sun happens to be shining on a cold Melbourne day, then basically you can heat your house practically for free. So that's a fantastic deal if you can get in that situation. And so here's the message, you know. Now here we are again, we're not in winter anymore, so maybe this message, you won't remember it, but you know, next April when it's time for heating, or maybe even, I think it's going to be cold on Wednesday. So if you haven't tried it yet on Wednesday, get your remote control. Now look, the battery's probably died, so go out to the store, get 2 AA batteries, get them in there. Find the heat button, so it might say HEAT, or it might be a sun, and push the heat button and start heating with the air conditioner and start saving. You will pay off the AA batteries in about 2 days, is the payback on that.
Should use inner loops.
Pardon me?
Should use inner loops. Rechargeable.
Yeah, get some rechargeables, there you go. Oh, but here's one little thing. Don't forget there is a filter hiding underneath, you know, that plastic panel in your reverse cycle air conditioner, so make sure the filter is clean. This can be a DIY job to clean this, keep it clean. People say, Tim, how often should I have to clean? And I'll say, well, however fast it gets dirty. But the point is, I think, is that you might have an air conditioner, maybe you used it for 10 days across the summer in the past, not a lot, and so you could clean your filter every 3 years because you didn't use it that much. But in winter, you're going to be using this thing for 100 days. So you need to change it clean it 10 times as often as you used to. For any system that blows air around, there should be a filter, and this shows you a filter from a ducted heating system. So make sure they're clean, because I went into a person's house once and they said, Tim, I knew you were coming, so I thought I would find the heat button, got the batteries, fixed up the remote control, found the heat button, tried to heat with the air conditioner. It didn't work very well. And I said, well, is the filter clean? And they said, the what? So we opened it up and that's what it looked like. So the air conditioner was not working very well in that situation. I mean, I work with a lot of young people. They just bought a house and they have no idea the history of the air conditioner that's already there. You know, maybe it's never been cleaned. So, but then again, we're not taught in school to clean filters on air conditioners, and so we kind of just assume they work, and there's nothing we have to do. But that's not the way it is. All right, hot water, next thing. So if you're off the gas for the heating, then let's get off the gas for the hot water as well. Again, it'll be 1/3 the cost of using gas. This is a split system heat pump. We see an example up here as well. And this makes it very obvious that it is the same heat pump technology as a reverse cycle air conditioner. This has cold refrigerant in it that absorbs heat from the air, and then it puts that heat into the water. Job done. So you can't cool your house with this, all you can do is heat your water. But this configuration makes it fairly clear that it's getting heat out of the air, and will be a lot cheaper than gas. Here's other types of hot water heat pumps that are just all in one, and we have some examples here as well where they've arranged the heat pump bit, the air conditioner bit, you could say, on top of the water tank, and then here's a small tank and a large tank. So there's different configurations depending on what you want to spend and how much space you have around your house to get the hot water heat pump in there. And then again, if you're lucky enough to have the solar panels, then if the sun's shining, the electricity from that can heat your water. And that's the way that a lot of us do it once we get a heat pump, and if we have the solar panels, well, my heat pump will come on at 11 o'clock today. Why? Because, well, we're probably going to have some sun, we're going to have some electricity coming off the solar panels, we might as well use that to heat the water. Only uses about 800 watts, less than a hairdryer, and it'll run for 2 or 3 hours. It'll make sure the whole tank is full of hot water, job done, and I'll have a shower 6 o'clock next morning. In this situation with the solar, because you don't get paid that much for selling solar out onto the grid anymore, you might as well use it at home. This is practically free hot water, so that's quite a good deal. Yeah, I should have mentioned before, there's big rebates available from the Victorian government if you get off the gas heating and onto air conditioners. There's big rebates available from the state and federal governments if you get off gas or electric resistive heating and onto hot water heat pumps. So take advantage of those. this shows you how we use our hot water heat pump and the solar system on a day when we're not even home. So if you get a solar system, you may be familiar with the charts and graphs that you can get if it's set up with consumption monitoring. This is our house in the middle of the night, shows our electricity use, just a wiggly line. That's the fridge going on and off, on and off, on and off until the sun comes up. This big gray curve, you know, we're not home this day. It's a nice sunny day in January. We produce all that electricity and we sell all that electricity out onto the grid because we're not home, except for this yellow bit. What's that? That's our hot water heat pump. Comes on every day at 11 o'clock, uses the 800 watts, runs for as long as it needs to make sure that the tank is full of hot water. So that shows you how easy it can be for a solar system to take care of your hot water on a sunny day in January, but not every day is a sunny day in January. This shows a different sort of day where it's not so sunny, but even then, most of the heating of the hot water was done with our own electricity. And then the last thing, with the hot water, of course, don't use more hot water than you need. Get a bucket, check what your shower heads are doing. You ought to be able to have a nice shower for 8 liters a minute or less. And then if we're off the gas hot water, then onto the cooking. And so this is a standard gas cooktop, and you know, so if the gas cooktop was the only thing left in your house, why should you change it? Well, getting off the gas cooktop then can mean you can disconnect from the gas grid entirely. So you pay about $1 a day to be connected to the gas grid, so that's a pretty good savings. And another thing is the burning of gas in the home has been linked to 12% of childhood asthma, and there's other health impacts from burning stuff in the house, because when you burn gas, it gives off carbon monoxide and sulfur dioxide, nitrous oxides and formaldehyde and benzene and particulates and moisture, etc. Look, we don't have to burn things in our homes anymore. We shouldn't burn things in our home. I mean, my grandmother used to cook over coal. She thought that was fine, but then the gas came along. That was thought to be cleaner. But these days we have the induction cooktops, and this is my wife doing a stir fry on the induction cooktop. Now, induction is not this sort of electric cooktop. This is the older style resistive electric or ceramic electric, and if you've used these, you may know they can be a bit slow to start up, a bit slow to adjust, a bit slow to cool down, and goodness me, if you touch these red things here, you're going to burn yourself. But this is induction. It's cooking with magnets, so it's different. It's very fast, very adjustable. There's big magnets underneath here. You turn it on, immediately the magnet energizes the pot, and the pot actually becomes the actual cooking element. So you can put your hand right here, and it's not going to be that hot. You can remove the pot and put your hand on the glass. It'll be a bit warm, but it's not going to burn you, because the magnets aren't trying to heat up the glass. They're just trying to heat up the metal in the pot. So very responsive. I did it this morning. I cooked a big breakfast this morning with the spinach and the tomatoes and the mushrooms, and eventually the egg went on there. But I always have to remember to start the toaster first, because I'll be done cooking all this over here before the toast is even ready. That's how fast they are. If you maybe you've got someone in the house with asthma and you're cooking with gas. When you're cooking, run your extraction fan to try to get the contaminants out of the air. Have a window open nearby. But if you really want to get off the gas ASAP, you might take the portable route. So very quickly, you could head down to IKEA or wherever else they're selling these things. Get a portable for $75 or something like that, plug into a wall. Sorry, Luke, no electrician needed in this case for the portable. And you can be off the gas cooking tomorrow. So this is what some of our members at my Efficient Electric Home have done. This is an old gas cooktop. They just took off the gas grilly bits, got a block of wood, 2 portables, plug into the wall until they can get around to working out a permanent solution. Here you see three portables plugged into the wall is what one member did. This is a restaurant in Melbourne, Asian restaurant, where every table gets their own portable induction cooktop. So that's what we're doing these days. And sometimes even the libraries, you might find the library or the council around here, someone might even be loaning out portable induction cooktops so you can try it and see what it's like. I mean, we still have our portable. If I want to cook soup this summer on a 40-degree day, I'll do it outside on the induction. It's just a portable hot plate now, so it's handy. But as I said before, run your extraction fans to get the contaminants out from all sorts of cooking, whether that's gas or electric. Make sure that this filter, the grease filter in your range hood, is clean. And then now you're off gas. You're off the gas heating, you're off the gas hot water, you're off the gas cooking. Ring up your gas supplier and say, stop sending me a bill. And they'll say, right, okay, well, we'll have to take your meter away. And you shouldn't have to pay any more than $242 for the meter to disappear. We're in the multi-net gas distribution area here. And some people around here seem to even be paying less. A few years ago, I only paid $69. In fact, my son paid $0. He was able to, for some reason, they didn't charge him. But, so it's not a terribly painful process. But the government, the Victorian government, since they're on board now with all this, they've said they can't charge you any more than $220 plus GST to get rid of the gas meter. Now, whereas if you're in New South Wales, they might charge you $1,500 to get rid of the gas meter, and if you're in Canberra, they might charge you $2,000. So there the gas industry is saying, holy cow, what's happening here? These people are trying to leave. We might as well grab as much money off of them as we can before they leave. But fortunately in Victoria, that's not the situation. So that's about the gas in your home, but a bit more of the big picture. Like I said, I used to work in the gas industry. This is just a map here that shows the gas pipelines going all the way from the coal seam gas fields down to Melbourne and Bass Strait and out in the Otways and down to Tasmania. Yeah, it was pretty amazing working in the industry. I'd get on the helicopters down in Sale and fly off to the platforms, and you know, years ago they discovered all this oil and gas down there. 59 years ago they discovered all this oil and gas, and they said, wow, there's so much gas here, we could run a whole city, we could run a whole state off of this gas for 60 years. And they discovered it 59 years ago. So we are on the last, little bits of gas that are continuing to come out of here. And so what we're going to find is more and more, if you keep using gas, it'll be coal seam gas coming down these pipelines from Queensland. Or it'll be gas, liquefied gas coming in by boat into Geelong, or they're also looking at bringing it into Wollongong and Adelaide. So if you want to keep buying gas at an expensive price, they'll sell it to you. And so this is the way that it'll be done in the future. But it also helps to explain why gas is so expensive these days. This is the coal seam gas business up in Queensland, where they basically just pin cushion the entire countryside, the farms, the forests, etc., with up to like 50,000 wells. So they're pretty desperate to be chasing gas out of coal seams. In the Bass Strait, we might have 100 wells, but here you need 50,000 to do the same job. But they're happy to do that across all of Queensland and parts of New South Wales if we want to keep paying for gas. Of course, most of it's exported anyway, and overseas they will pay a certain price, but you get to pay the international prices as well. Since the gas is coming from further and further away, we'll continue to see headlines like this. This was just from June, where there was a gas shortfall threat. If we had a cold week and if anything fell over in the system, kind of like an electricity blackout, but this was going to be a gas blackout. And so there was a bit of a news about that at the time. It didn't happen because nothing fell over and it wasn't that cold. The gas industry says, right, we can fix this. We'll just keep, drilling for more gas and bringing more gas. I say we can fix this by using less gas, and we won't have any problem with a gas shortfall in the winter because we won't be using the stuff. But we'll hear this again next winter. Be the same story. It'll come up every year until we're through this transition. Monitoring the electricity use. Won't say much about that unless we want to come back to it. Are we running out of time overall, or keep going? No. Okay, keep going. And then the home's thermal envelope. So the rest of it, it's one thing to heat the house or cool the house, but you'd like it to stay at that temperature, but it won't, because your house is a leaky bucket. It's not a thermos bottle. As soon as you put some heat in, you're going to be losing heat, and this is where the insulation, the draft sealing, the window treatments, and the windows come into it. Insulation, roof space insulation is the number one. Check that out first. Often I go into roof spaces and the homeowner will say, yeah, I've got roof space insulation. I got these nice thick white bats up there. But I'll go into the roof space and I'll find that yeah, you got insulation, but it's, you know, it's all been strewn about. So somebody went up here to check a water leak or change a light bulb or to put in the NBN or to install solar panels, or they did something and they moved the insulation out of the way and they didn't put it back. So this is a very top priority. If you can crawl up into your roof space, if it's safe to do so, poke your head up in the manhole, check your insulation, make sure that it's fairly thick and that it's perfect. If it's not thick and perfect, then you should probably spend some money to improve that. It will be worth it. So that's the roof space. Under the floors and in the walls, well, you know, maybe your house doesn't have wall insulation, but it's been part of the building standards since about 1995, so it may be time to catch up. And there are ways to retrofit wall insulation. Now, in our old weatherboard, and this is our house, we had done renos where the lath and plaster came down inside, and so we insulated from the inside of the house, or in other cases, the weatherboards came off, so we were able to insulate from the outside. But I always had this one wall that wasn't insulated, and it was a pretty important room. It was the TV room where my wife and I would end up, you know, on a cold winter night watching television with the air conditioner just ticking over, and there, you know, didn't make any sense to be losing heat out through that uninsulated wall, and it always just felt icy anyway, so it was ridiculous. So we had this company, EnviroFlex, come in and they drill a bunch of holes, as many holes as they need to drill to access every space, every cavity in the wall, and then they pneumatically convey or blow in a chewed up fiberglass insulation. So that's EnviroFlex. There's also another business now has started in Melbourne, EcoHome. They can blow insulation into walls, be they weatherboard or brick. So they have ways of doing these things. The underfloor insulation can also be retrofitted if there's space. This is our home's biggest flaw, that we don't have underfloor insulation. Our home would be more comfortable if it did. This, again, has been part of the building standard for at least the last 10 years, that you should have underfloor insulation, so it's not some new hippie-greeny thing. Do it if you can, particularly if you've got easy access like this. The preferred method is stapling up long rolls of polyester, because this is the thing that will resist animals and gravity through the years. So avoid other methods. This can be done DIY if you're handy with a stapler to staple it up. Make sure you don't run into any electrical hazards. Or you can hire people that will put in the underfloor insulation. I wish I had it. If I wasn't here today, I'd be digging underneath the house trying to get it under there. So that's the insulation retrofits. Windows, we can talk about windows and window coverings perhaps later if there's questions in particular on windows. Draft proofing. Draft proofing can be quite low-hanging fruit. Our homes are generally very drafty, particularly the old ones. And it can start, if you go way back, with like the wall vents. So you might have a home and you have these wall vents and you can practically see all the way through the wall. Should you plug those up? Well, of course you should. I mean, you shouldn't have a hole through your wall, but why is it there? Well, it was there because you've got fireplaces. And in the old days, that's how we would heat our home, was with the fireplaces, and fires need oxygen to burn. And so they came up with this idea of chopping holes through the wall to feed air to the fire. But if you're not heating your home 24/7 with an open fireplace anymore, you don't need the wall vents. So that's what they were for. Also then, you know, we stopped using the wood or the coal briquettes to heat our homes and we switched over to the gas. But then some people died from carbon monoxide poisoning from the gas. And so the government said, tell you what, we'll just keep chopping holes in the walls for a while. And that was still part of the building standard into the 1970s, but it's not part of the building standard anymore. It's safest for me to say, you can draft proof your home when the gas is gone. If you've still got a gas heater, you know, check it, make sure it's not putting out carbon monoxide gas. But if you do have a poor performing gas heater, maybe the only thing keeping you alive is that your house is so leaky. So that's a bit of a caution with the draft proofing. But if you don't have the gas, get stuck into the draft proofing. You know, block up those chimneys, close the wall vents or ceiling vents, fix up the gaps around the doors and windows or the skirting boards or the architraves or the floorboards, and look in behind the cupboards and behind the appliances, and have a look at your fans as well, because they should have a backdraft damper to prevent leakiness. This shows how you test the leakiness of a house using a blower door test. So you can put a blower on your front door. In this test, they try to suck all the air out of your house, and then with a smoke machine, they can go around and just visually show you how leaky your house is and where all the air's coming in. So that's a handy thing to do. Not everybody has to do it because, you know, basically I can tell you where the gaps are in your house and you might as well seal them. But I did have a blower door test done after 20 years of draft proofing, and we scored pretty well in an old weatherboard house. But this just goes to show you can apply technology even to something like draft proofing. But when you are draft proofing, as I said, make sure you maintain good air quality. So carbon monoxide from a gas heater is one thing to be concerned about. And then there's just the carbon dioxide that we breathe out. So if you're in a, if you're in a sealed room and you're breathing out carbon dioxide, eventually there'll be too much of that stuff in the room. So what do? You open a window. So pay attention to your ventilation. You got to get that carbon dioxide out of the house, some fresh air in to manage your air quality. But it's still worth draft sealing, because if you have a leaky house, you're in a regime of uncontrolled air leakage. And so if you've got air pollution from the traffic, or there's a bushfire, or your neighbor's is burning wood, you might get that smoke and those pollutants coming into your house. By draft proofing, you can improve your air quality by tightening it up. You can reduce your energy bills, make it more comfortable, but you do need to remember to open windows frequently and when you can. And the Germans even have a word for it. So like in the middle of winter, they'll do a Stoßlüften every day, which means that you throw all the windows open for 15 minutes, let the breeze blow through, take the carbon dioxide and any other contaminants out. Hopefully the air quality outside's not bad. You pick a good time to do the Stoßlüften, and then you can close the windows and go back to heating the house again. But in a brief purge like that, you're not going to lose that much heat out of the house, and that's what you need to do to maintain the air quality. Here's a few different devices for monitoring air quality. This one looks at carbon dioxide. This one looks at, I use this one to see if my neighbor's burning wood and whether I should open my windows or not. And this one measures humidity or moisture. And the moisture one's very important. We don't want to have a moldy house. This sort of thing going on with mold, etc. So it's in the book. I've written articles about moisture management as well, to give you some ideas about how to manage moisture. You may need, in some cases, to run a dehumidifier. Make sure you run your extraction fans from your cooking and your showers to get that moisture out of the air. But if you're, in your bedroom breathing, we breathe out moisture. Your dog breathes out moisture. The houseplants breathe out moisture, or put out moisture. And you may just be getting moisture from the structure or the foundation or whatever. You need to manage that and make sure that it doesn't build up to levels that support the growth of mold. In fact, this is a chart that shows you that. If anybody's got questions about moisture management, we'll come back to that. But one key tip is don't hang laundry around the house to dry with the windows closed, because that can release a huge amount of moisture into the home. So hang clothes outside for sure. Sure, don't use a old one-star dryer. They're quite expensive to use. But fortunately, these days they've invented these heat pump condensing clothes dryers, 7 to 10 stars, which are basically a dehumidifier for your clothes. They condense all the moisture into a bin, and so they're not releasing moisture out into your living space. So this shows me pulling out the bin that's all full of water and dumping that down the drain. So that's how heat pump dryers work. Or you might need a dehumidifier. And that's about the end. Very good.
All right. Yeah, we'll be around here for a couple of hours, so whatever you guys want to do, you can stay, we can go up to.
Very good.